KTN News. Get the whole story. KTN News. Get the whole story.
Welcome back. You're watching Uongozi Today here on Morning Prime. Thank you for staying with us. I can see reactions on Twitter here. We have Roy Kinyanjui saying, Adam's law is not being honest. Protecting the vote is loosely interpreted as milling around polling stations, holding kamukunjis ready to cause chaos at the slightest perceived provocation. Linda Kura is plain incitement. Also, we have Newton also saying, thank you for bringing a true analyst, Mr. Weda. We have a fan here, Newton Murithi, right? But maybe, Adams, you want to respond to that? Then we can continue the conversation briefly.
I think what is happening with this idea of protection of the vote is that everybody is giving their subjective opinion. Me, I went through the law and the regulations. Why do you, for example, have agents? It's to protect the vote. Why do you have observers? It's to ensure that the voting and tallying and announcement of results is free and fair. Why do you have, in democracies, the media being present and even calling elections in countries such as America, and their electoral commission only confirms what they have done? That is to ensure the integrity of the vote. And that's what my understanding of protection of the vote is. Yeah.
Right, thank you. Thank you. Had we finished with Professor Eric Aseka before we go to Professor Arman Manyora? You'd finished before we took a short break.
There was an argument that I was making, which I think when the break came, it erased it off my mind. So I need to...
Or to refresh it.
Yeah, to refresh
Arman
it.
Manyora, briefly on that as well. So was what we're talking about is the political sleight of hand that we've seen, the reaction from Deputy President William Ruto, just to refresh your mind as well, coming at this particular time, and the issues that were raised also on Taifa Leo, many of them regarding internet. We have Chiloba. Yes.
Baadhi ya moja ulizosoma ni kwamba stima itazimwa, kura zikipigwa. Kura zinapigwa mchana. Voting takes place between 6 in the morning and 5 in the evening. So I don't see how lighting comes there. In any case, I don't know, unless things have changed. IBC always has contingents in terms of, you see those lamps, in case during the voting, lights go off, wanakuanga na taa. Actually, this is the pressure. This was of a meko, that meko, the ones people use for cooking. You know, it can also be used for lighting. They are spread across the country. So you can see how frivolous some of the allegations are. You know, somebody said government cannot stop being government. I think Professor Seka said government has to continue being government. If you look at Tononoka yesterday, nobody stopped the rally. They were simply told, next door there's a presidential function. Uhuru is the president of the Republic of Kenya. The Constitution says as much until he hands over to the next person. It could even be next year, my friend. The Constitution does not tell us just when should we stop reruns. We can have 10 reruns. Uhuru can be president for even 5 years. So there is a presidential function a few meters from the place. So they are told, stop your activities. And it was not the meeting itself, the activities around the place. Resume your activities once the president is through with what he's doing. The president had a number of things to do. So he was not going to stay at that place, with it Kipevu, whatever it is, for more than an hour. Then you resume. Now you spread the word across the country that your rally is cancelled. That wasn't true. And things like deployment of security. This is normal. The security sector knows how to deploy security. Sometimes they do it in a collaboration, like I had Nani say, like this PS Kibichu, in collaboration with IBC even, with other stakeholders. You need this level of security in this place.
His problem is, why are they meeting at night?
Pardon?
Why are they meeting at night?
Government can meet. Government works 24 hours.
Security
What's wrong with you? Government works 24 hours. Let me just finish.
No, it's not me. This is what he's saying here. Commissioner wa Rift Valley anafanya mikutano usiku wa level.
Let me finish. My take home is this. Government works 24 hours. Whether it's at night or day, that is how government works. Let me say this. Because we are looking at tomorrow, not now. In 2013, 2017, the things are happening, did happen. Deployment of chiefs. Some of these things even featured in the Supreme Court about cabinet secretaries being used to campaign and other public officers. The shoe was on the other leg. You see? So going forward, we want to see a better Kenya. On the 1st of September, in the year 2017, Uhuru's election was nullified by the Supreme Court. I heard people saying, "Sasa munakasirika, na hii ni kionjo. We have been going through this thing for the last I don't know how many years." Now, Ruto is feeling this pinch because he knows how it works. He knows how it works. He can see the game is lost because he has been there before. And I'm saying, going forward, all of us as Kenyans must know we need a clean election. Because an election that has been messed can destroy a country. Let us not celebrate evil because it is favoring us. This is the point we must take home today. We must learn from these lamentations of Ruto that please do not support evil because it is favoring you. You get the point? Now people are wondering, if Ruto knew these things were going to happen, and I want to tell Kenyans, how come he was not worried? How come he was so confident? I now want to tell you and the Kenyans. When Ruto appeared to be completely winning this election, I am sure even top government officers, even from the security sector and everywhere, must have seen this thing was going with Ruto. And they must have gone on his side and assured, and he believed they were with him. That's why he was very confident. Knowing these things are dangerous. He was so confident because the people were with him. They saw he was winning. But as things began to change and Uhuru brought things under control, the big boys began trooping back to Uhuru. And then Ruto has found himself exposed. And for that reason, he's panicking because he knows the damage these things can cause. And I'm asking Kenyans, including politicians and media, this should be the last time we have monkey business in our elections.
Thank you. Thank you. Professor Adam Solo.
If you go to the history of this country insofar as elections are concerned, then you'll find that beginning 1969, the electoral body was put aside and the Attorney General's office, through a designated office known as Supervisor of Elections,
Montgomery,
where you had Norman Montgomery and later Zakaria Nyarango. And do you know who the returning officers were, Dibab? They were the provincial administration.
DCs.
The PCs, the DCs, the DOs, and that remained until 1992, when a new Electoral Commission of Kenya was formed. Why am I saying that? Because from the Jomo Kenyatta regime, Jomo Kenyatta was not a political party man. He came from jail, he found KANU had been formed, and KANU had its owners. So when Jomo Kenyatta became president, the party had branches until the grassroots. But Jomo Kenyatta did not have control of the party. So Jomo Kenyatta decided that unlike Julius Nyerere, his counterpart, who had control of the party all the way to the grassroots, he decided to create a parallel system to the party. which was the provincial administration, and he used to say, "You are my eyes and ears on the ground." So that on national days, when you would expect the party to pronounce the president's policies, it was the PCs, DCs, DOs who were doing that. Now, why am I bringing that? That to that extent, the provincial administration was demonized in this country, such that under the 2010 Constitution, earlier in the 2005 Constitution, there was a quest to, in fact, scrap the provincial administration. But in the 2010 Constitution, a compromise was arrived at. And in the transitional clauses, it said that the provincial administration will be restructured to accord to the devolution provisions in the Constitution. When the Jubilee government took power, their restructuring in what is now called NGAO, National Government Administration Office, was to the extent to say that since security is not devolved, then the restructuring of the provincial administration will remain the way it was before, so that the provincial administration becomes the extended security arm of the national government. And that's why all the way from the assistant chief to the DO1 to the county commissioner to the regional commissioner, they are part of the security apparatus. And therefore, as Mwanyora says, where do you draw the line of an election in which security is a critical component, and that provincial administration has to be involved in ensuring security, and them being used for political purposes? And I think the point Mwanyora is raising is very sacrosanct, that what is being done now was done in 2013, was done in 2017, was done in 2007, was done in 2002, all the way to 1963. And therefore, it behoves Kenyans to ask themselves that going forward, what's the best way of addressing it? But my point here is that, as Mwanyora has said, politics is about perception. Politics is purely perception. William Ruto was in the Moi regime. He knows how, despite the provincial administration being used by the Moi government, the NAC government still romped into power. He knows how, in 2013 and 2017, how the provincial administration was used, and in quotes, Jubilee won. He knows. And therefore, if I told you politics is about perception, when I looked at that press conference yesterday, you looked at Musalia Mudavadi, Grimfest. These are insiders of government. You looked at Mutua, when he told us the other day how he was behind the ECK camera being sneaked into State House, how he gave suggestions. He knows. You looked at Justin Muturi, the Speaker of the National Assembly. They know. And I think I agree with Mwanyora. Them being insiders in government, they know that this is not a knack moment. That's the thing.
All right. Is that your phone that somebody is trying to reach you? as well. You can put it on silent. Thank you very much. Let me come to Ambrose Weda. In this week, some of these issues were raised, and the Star was carrying a very interesting article yesterday that on page 2, strangers accessed IBC voter register. And we've been talking about the KPMG audit, and the agency denies claim, saying that security of database has been strengthened. And we could just tease out some of the things they were putting out of this particular article, where it read, unauthorized people accessed the voter register database of Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. A new audit has revealed. The audit by KPMG says the unauthorized users updated the voter register, raising concerns about whether the voters' roll was manipulated. It says, quote-unquote, audit trails indicated that there were users who were not gazetted as returning officers or assistant returning officers who made updates to voter data. That is what the report is revealing. Additionally, the auditors said password settings in the application layer and database layer were inconsistent with the IEBC policy. Further, registration officers also had elevated privileges that allow them to effect transfers, change voter particulars, and deactivate deceased voters at the constituency level. With this, the auditor says some of the users applied the privileges to irregularly transfer voters and change particulars. Quote, there is a risk that users who are not authorized by law may process transfers, change particulars, or deactivate voters in the system. This is what the KPMG report said. The KPMG audit identified 246,465 dead voters in the register, more than 4,881,000 duplicate entries, 226,143 registered with wrong IDs, and 164,269 with unrecognized records. Now, this is a report that people are saying, yeah, we should put it on the table. We want to know the revelation from the KPMG when now they were trying to, of course, purge the entire voter register. When you hear this particular
for me, that's
revelations,
a red herring.
Is a red herring?
Debal, on the polling day on the 9th, a human being must physically appear to put the hand on the KM's kit. Before that, brilliant people like Manyora are supposed to have checked where they are registered. I checked and I'm still at DMO Primary School, So these others, some access people accessed and they have transferred voters, and those are red herrings that we should not be talking about 4 days. We will talk about them after, or you can bring them to the Supreme Court in case there is need to go there. But for now, majority of people who have checked, they find their names where they are. Let us also not bombard IBC with accusations and so on. That makes people lose confidence in the process. I can see that my brother Aman and Dr. Olo have become psychologists. They read the faces of Mutua, they can read the face of Mudavadi, and they read it in their favor, that these people have known and so on. Please, Dr. Majora, get it clear. President Uhuru does not have 5 years. He does not have an extra year. Elections are supposed to be done on 9th. If there is a rerun, you do the rerun within the period. President Uhuru goes. We must develop a country where leaders lead and they work, encouraging them through innuendos, through whatever, that he can be there 5, 10 years. No. If after the second round we don't have a president, then as a people will say, let us amend the constitution to have a government of national unity. Otherwise, we are going to encourage people to cling to power. Your time is up, then you bring in this story, then you disrupt elections so that when they are disrupted, you declare state of emergency and then you remain in power. This country is for our children and grandchildren. The good book, the King of Kings says, a good man leaves an inheritance to the children of his children, our grandchildren. Looking at it, this gerrymandering, this jostling we are talking about. For instance, the president knows that his colleague, his counterpart, his deputy is holding a rally in Toronto. He had booked for it. Why would he then go there and say, hold your rally? How do you hold a rally for an hour? Let us be fair. Let us look at things correctly. Let us look and say, no, Your Excellency. If you would have just flown by helicopter. And second, there was no reason to disrupt somebody's rally plan on the basis that you want to go say and declare this thing officially open. Some the new president will open. Raila, if he becomes president, he will open, or Ruto, or Wajakoya, or Mwaure. So doing that, it sends a bad picture. It gives a bad show. Coming hot on heels, where now the president refused to greet the deputy. Now you go near his rally. That amounts to disrupting your colleague's rally. Some people like me are saying that is wrong. We should discourage that. If Raila comes, let him hold his rally. If Ruto comes, some of us were with Baba those days when greeting Baba like this and the special branch would come and crash your boat. Some of us went to Nyati House just behind here by standing up. And the country is now freer. Now we are encouraging others as they are taking us back to the dark days. No, whether it is Ruto or Raila or Wajakoya has been allowed to talk about the balls of things. And we are saying, let him talk. People like Jaramogi have fought for these things. People like Masinde Muliro, Matiba have fought. We cannot allow
let's break the order. Let me come up.
It's wrong.
No,
so
let's
don't
go
encourage
sequentially.
anybody to be in power 10 years. No.
Let me come up.
Relax. 10 years, 5 years. No. President Uhuru has only a few months. If there's a rerun, after that, Nyumbani. If by any chance we don't have a president from the elections, some of us will say, let's have a government of national unity where everybody is involved as we prepare for election. Otherwise, somebody can be encouraged to disrupt things. Then he says, I declare state of emergency. There's no president.
Right.
I continue. Wrong.
Let me seek consent for Maseka. Will you,
of course.
Yeah, forfeit your chance? Herman takes it. Then I'll give you a double chance.
No.
Okay, yeah. Continue. You said no. Yes. Continue, Aseka.
I think there's need for us to follow the established procedures which are laid down in law.
Yes.
And any endangerment of that kind of brings us to a brink of rendering the state vulnerable to collapse. So rule of law is very, very important. But to that, I want to say that I will not agree with efforts to try and politicize security, because the security cadre is supposed to comprise of people who are professional and who are exercising neutrality. And we should know, for example, that the deputy president is still in office. And as Kibicho said, that it is boss. Instead of relying on calling young people or lower people out there to give him briefs, the moment he gets that information, he has the right to summon Kibicho, he has the right to summon Matiang'i. Has he done it? Now, secondly, we should also remember, given the history that Adams has just given, NAC government came to power regardless of the perceived intrigues and interferences of the security. And Ruto has told us that the masses are with him. So why can't he marshal like the NAC government came to power regardless of the obstacles? Because there will never be an election where there are no obstacles at all. Yeah.
It's true. It's true. Adams?
I just want to pick from where Professor Aseka has left. William Ruto has been consistent. He has said tons and tons of time, munaona kama kura yangu inaweza ibiwa? Munaona mimi kama kura yangu inaweza ibiwa? William Ruto has said tons of times that I get intelligence briefs. That means that the security apparatus are subservient to his position as deputy president. He's on record saying that. So when he comes out to lament and then say, I want the international community to hear this, and by the same mouth, he says that I get intelligence briefs. Who's fooling who?
Good question. So who is fooling whom? Herman Manyora.
The reason why I wanted to come in is because, you know, Weather can be very populist, and we need to help our viewers. Starting with the issue of the president's function.
This is not university.
When you book a venue, let's say when you book a venue like Tononoka, you book from the owners of the venue, who are, I think, the county government, and you pay it. When you want now to notify the police, it is the police who do all the check that is required. Then the police get to know, in fact, they must be aware all along that the president has a function just next door. Now, between your function and that of the president, certainly we do not need to get to second guess which one can prevail whenever there's a conflict. If you are holding something there and the president was holding his, surely it must be the president that will prevail. It's common sense, it's decency, it's order. Okay?
It's protocol.
The second thing I wanted to debunk, that's why I was almost standing up. I didn't say the president should be or can be in power for 5 years. I know the Constitution. What I said is, there is nowhere in the provision, in the Constitution, that there's a limit to how many reruns you can have. You're a lawyer, the two of you. Enlighten us. There's no limit. What happened? Listen. There was going to be a rerun, okay, in 2017. Somebody went to court. Is that right? The day the judgment would have been made, or ruling, whatever it's called, and everybody knows really what was going to happen, the court didn't sit. We don't want to go back to what happened to the judges. They didn't sit. That election was not going to be held, right? Was Uhuru going to stop being president? He would have been president until perhaps Chebukati went to the Supreme Court. What do we do in this situation? Or a situation in which, please listen, where there is a rerun, my right to go to court does not stop because it's a rerun. I'll still go to court. And if the court finds merit in my case, it will nullify that election. And another 60 days. I am saying the Constitution has not set a limit to how many times a rerun can be held. Okay? That's what I was saying. And in that case, even if your case were to come to play of Kenyans sitting down, my friend, that can even take longer. It happened in Zaire, even in Kenya here, in DRC. First of all, to people to sit. What does it mean by people sitting? Who are the people to sit? That alone can take even a year. So I'm saying technically it's possible that the president can be in office for a long time. Finally, about the things the bar was reading, the report, I just wanted to point out whether that report has been handed to IBC. IBC has owned the report. It has even suspended people. It has agreed that voters were transferred illegally, that there are 246 dead voters in the register. There are people in the register with double registration. There were people without documentation that is required. That is a document, a report that has been on. And the things that people had access to the register, who should not have had, or more access than they should have been tabled in the report. But finally, it disturbs Kenyans that before even IBC knew, Ruto knew the exact number of people affected. These are some of the things people are talking about. My friend Deba, you get it?
Yes.
What you are reading is not fiction. It's a report that has been tabled and accepted and acted upon by IBC.
But it's privy to intelligence, so why will this be so new to him?
Who, this guy?
No, William Ruto himself.
Even before IBC knew what the report. What
this
was
is what
saying?
actually you are trying to advance as well yourself.
No, but it is in the public domain. Even IBC was shocked. They were asked, said, what? How did he know? We also didn't know. But went on to clarify that the 1 million voters had not been deleted according to Ruto. Neither were they from his strongholds. He was saying 1 million people from his strongholds had been deleted. But IBC says, yes, we have a figure close to 1 million of people spread across the country, and there was no deletion. There are 200 and something or so who are moved without their consent.
Just allow me to correct something.
Please.
When matters of law comes in, now as a senior lawyer coming from political scientist, here now we are two lawyers.
I know, yeah.
It's serious law. But please get this very clearly. This is not a classroom lecture. Parliament has gone on adjournment. Cindy. But immediately election is done, it is like that parliament now is gone. The president remains as a caretaker president. Now, on the basis our constitution envisages that if there is no 50% plus one, then there will be a rerun. That rerun will produce somebody based on whoever gets one extra vote. There is no endless, as my brother seems to think. And in case, therefore, at that time, something happens, there's no winner, or let's say a candidate dies or whatever, then the constitution provides how we will again have to produce a candidate and a president. But where my brother is saying there will be endless, in the absence of parliament, in the absence of the people's representative, even the president's powers and scope is very, very limited. This thing of endless you are talking about is not in our constitution.
So what is in the constitution?
What is in the constitution is
Does it
one
state anywhere?
rerun. One rerun.
Where is it stated?
Please don't talk like that.
Is it stated anywhere?
This is not a political science book
Is
now.
it stated anywhere? Oh, no, please, you're also a lawyer. Help us.
Please. You are now shouting like this. This is not a tea room in the university. This one is a serious discourse on matters constitution.
But is it stated?
So,
Why don't you answer him? What he's asking?
Is it stated
what is
somewhere?
it?
Where-
What is
where-
in the
I said it
constitution?
wasn't stated.
Huh?
That was the basis of my argument.
Yes. It wasn't?
Stated anywhere in the constitution. Tell me where it's stated, and that ends the story. I'm not a lawyer. You'll be educating me, and I could even buy you tea.
I'm waiting for you to continue.
I said,
Yes.
I don't see anywhere where it is stated
You
that
can't see
there can
because you
only
don't
be
have
one
that eye.
rerun.
Now let me give you the eye,
Yes.
please. The Constitution of Kenya, you understand, provides the process of election. Unless, as a pedestrians love saying, article this, article that. Now we senior lawyers, we don't quote by saying article this. That's a question for reference. You open it. But you talk of the principles of that constitution. First round, 50% plus one, you have a president. If that is not produced, round two, simple majority.
Correct.
And you get a president. That therefore takes out this allegation, this rumor.
But if I'm not satisfied-
please allow me,
him finish.
Professor. This is not a tea room here, university.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is now serious business.
It's called senior room. Senior common
Senior
room.
room where
Senior common room.
yes. Now this is not where now after that, after 50% plus one, then you get a president. As we talk today, we have a parliament. If there's an emergency, you can call them back and they take a decision. After 9th, there will be no parliament. Some people would have lost and so on. So what remains, the president himself now moves from a president to almost a caretaker transition president.
Correct.
If at that moment there's no president, he himself remains caretaker until those who are to take care of the country comes in. So I am debunking this thing. I said, oh, it can be there endless. Don't give innuendo
You
to
have not
people that
debunked-
can,
Thank you. All right,
can
thank
make
you.
them feel like
Thank you.
they tinker with the power.
All right.
That is not allowed.
Okay, let me draw in also Professor Asek and Adam Zolo on this. Yeah, you will listen to this particular debate. What will be your sentiments as well?
Well, the Constitution spells out transitional processes, and I don't think there are lapses as such. And where there are gaps, they are left for court interpretation. And so far, such a situation has not arisen. So we cannot say that we have a precedent that we can fall back onto. But it raises an issue. Should that be the case, what should be done? And I think in this country, I think we are very mechanical, whereby, as he says, sometimes we just interpret the articles without imbibing the spirit that drives constitutionalism, so that both the players are amenable to constitutionalist behavior and contact, where that brings in the issue of values, principles, and practices. I think on that we are rather low, and I will leave that to the legal minds to interpret further. But for me as a historian, I would say I don't see a precedent. Maybe when it comes, then we establish a basis of continued practice based on that precedent.
Right. First, let me make it very clear that I'm a stickler to the Constitution, and therefore I would expect that a president serves 2 terms and relinquishes. I'm also aware that Raila Odinga in his autobiography says that when Obasanjo wanted to seek for a 3rd term, his good friend Obasanjo, he advised him. He says, he records, he advised him, no, that's not good for democracy. So I believe that he wouldn't support such a thing. So let me go back to the issue that was the debate. If I hear Herman Mwanyora right, he's saying, let's use the example of 2017. Herman Mwanyora is saying that there was a petition. The Supreme Court nullified that election and called for another election as the Constitution stipulates in 60 days. And indeed, IEBC called an election, which Raila Odinga boycotted. After Uhuru was declared winner, civil society groups petitioned the Supreme Court again. And this time the Supreme Court threw it away. What Herman Mwanyora is saying, suppose the Supreme Court had nullified the 2nd election, what would happen? My reading of the Constitution, as he says, there would be another election again. And I think he's trying to say that suppose the next election, again, the Supreme Court. I think these are issues.
That's what I say is for tea room university.
That's
now not constitutional.
Exactly.
But it's good to just play a case scenario.
Things could happen. We are not in CBC class where you say, oh, this one, oh, that one. No, we are serious business. This money. Not CBC.
But I think what Weda is saying, if I hear him right, is that the Supreme Court doesn't live in a vacuum. The Supreme Court lives in a political country. And you can rest assured that were that to happen, the Supreme Court would take what is called judicial notice that the country can burn, and therefore would bring an end to that cycle. But I think we also have to say this, that as the presidential rerun goes on, the parliamentarians have been elected.
Yes.
And Parliament will be summoned to be in place. I think we have to balance all those.
Indeed. Herman Mwanyora, you want to defend yourself?
Yes. I wanted to say this. You see, that brings me really, because I was painting a picture of what can actually happen. And that's, according to Adams law, and which I want to agree with, the Supreme Court can see if this endless thing goes on, it can breed chaos in the country. And may cease because it has original jurisdiction, or somebody can move for an interpretation in the Supreme Court, and something can be worked out by the Supreme Court to help us. You see? But what I said remains, that if the Supreme Court does not move in a creative or innovative, or innovates, as Steve Ogola would want to put it, then practical that process can go on. It brings me to my serious point to make to Kenyans. Courts should never be allowed to decide who is the president of our country. That's why across the world, in fact, people were saying ours was the fourth. I point out it was the first major nullification of a presidential election. Others was a small country with, I don't know, 500 people. Another one in Austria was a ceremonial president. Another one was a disputed thing. You could create numbers, some fun of those. A presidential series was ours. Courts shy away from that because the decision of who becomes president of Kenya should and must be made by Kenyans and not the courts. How do we ensure that? We ensure that by the Supreme Court. I had an article in the Standard last Sunday, the other Sunday, not this Sunday, the other one, where we are saying the Supreme Court did not do what they are supposed to have done in 2017. Why nullify an election and let those who mess the election go home scot-free? They should punish those people. The excuses they were giving, there's no direct provision, it used to be there in the old law, it's not there. Supreme Court has original jurisdiction. They can move on their own and they cause people who mess an election to face the law or face the music, as people say, so that in the future you'll think twice before you mess an election. Only then, the bar, can we return the verdict of who becomes our president to the Kenyan people and not the Supreme Court. If we don't do that, the Supreme Court will perpetually decide for us who becomes president or who doesn't become president. Perpetually.
All right.
And there will be no time people don't move to Supreme Court.
Could we move the conversation to also the IBC?
The allow me as a senior lawyer, if I sit here and you allow common room style attack against the Supreme Court, my colleagues may ask me, and they will ask Olopia, that you are there as a lawyer and he was talking pedestrian issues against us and we can't defend ourselves. The Supreme Court only examines the process of an election. The election is done by other people. They are supposed to do it within the rules, within the law, within the constitution. Their work is to examine. And then they say, we think it was well done or poorly done. Even if there are people who messed the election, there are other laws. Those laws are not applied by the Supreme Court. Those laws are applied by other courts. The only time the Supreme Court can come in, they can come in and say, we nullify this election, we find one of the candidates committed offenses, and we either bar him from running or whatever. Other than that, if you did other things, that is left for other courts. There is something we call due process. There's something called right to be heard. That right to be heard, you can't just say in the Supreme Court I was not there, although I brought people in Seme. Then you decide to declare I'm not a party to that case. Then you say, we found that when I was in Seme, he gave people money, we buy him without hearing. That due process is the hallmark of our constitution. Right. So please don't attack the Supreme Court on matters you don't understand, you don't appreciate, you cannot fathom.
Can I butt in and just ask you then?
Yes.
Where does this process begin?
That is it.
Where does the process, is it now when we've cast our ballot, and then the way it will be transmitted until now to the tallying center and the announcement that is made? Or the process begins also from the voter registration? That some of these germane issues that are being raised from this particular report, that is part of the process.
The process begins from the voter registration. In fact, at the giving of ID.
Giving of ID, that's where the process begins.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, and it goes on until the matter reaches the Supreme Court. The difference you must understand is the limb that goes to the Supreme Court. The limb that goes to the Supreme Court is somebody complaining about the outcome of presidential election, not any other election. That is the limb.
What do you mean by the limb? Because this is
because there are various aspects.
It's a lawyerly lingo that is going
it's not a lawyerly lingo. For instance, if you steal an MCA's votes, it doesn't go to the Supreme Court. If you steal an MP's votes, it doesn't go to the Supreme Court. There is only specific limb of this entire general election that goes to the Supreme Court, and that one deals with number one, the presidential election, and number two, elections relating to the governors because of devolution. So, and Supreme Court has only jurisdiction if a party chooses to go there Even if there was massive rigging, massive stealing of elections here, and you see it, and nobody goes to the Supreme Court, they can do nothing.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's hear from Prof, because if we are beginning from the voter registration, and we have all these issues that are being raised here, don't you think also that is the powder keg that is waiting to explode moving ahead if there are challenges with these elections? Prof.
I would say that there are maleficences that happened in 2013, 2017, that we have not addressed. And I think I do back the fundamental question that you are raising about the process.
Yes.
When does it begin and when does it end? And therefore, are we interpreting all those processes right? For example, we have an enigma in 2017 about the death of Chris Musando. And there were blatant violations of the due electoral processes that took place, which led to the elections being nullified. Now, the issue is we have not addressed some of the dynamics and the issues that arose because of those violations. And some of the violators are still vying in the current electoral process. So how just is the Kenyan system? That's a question.
How just is the Kenyan system? Good question. Okay, let me just go to Adam Zolo before I raise that particular question. Just continue. From the process itself, we just want to get clarity. And I can see already the people, and we're given to understand from either side of the political spectrum, they have the legal team who are putting their ducks in a row. They're preparing for any challenges ahead. Could this part of registration be a challenge? This has been pointed out by the Deputy President.
You see, the Supreme Court, as Weda has said, will only listen to who has come before them. And when you look at the 2013 Supreme Court ruling and the 2017 Supreme Court ruling, certain precedents have already been set. One is process issues. Are there any irregularities? The other one are illegalities. And the Supreme Court will make its decision as to whether the illegalities or irregularities were to such an extent that it interfered with the result. They can still find irregularities, they can still find illegalities, which there's no election that can be 100% clean. But they'll be asking themselves, these illegalities and irregularities, are they sufficient enough to have led to a different outcome? Then they'll make that decision. Now, let me go to the register that you're talking about, and Senior Weda might chip in more than me on this, that the 2013 Supreme Court ruling left the voter register to be a moving target. The then IEBC had a provisional register, had, I don't know, another register where 18,000 were added and therefore the question that CORD was asking then, which the Supreme Court didn't settle, which is the register? They didn't settle that question. It's likely to come up again.
Which is the register? So we have the manual register, we have the digital register. The court has made its pronouncement on it. Which is the register?
Correct.
Do we have clarity? Or it's still a probing question?
We shall talk about it, but let me educate the lawyers here in this room briefly.
With what information? With what learning?
I want to educate the lawyers, both of them. One, the Supreme Court cannot be helpless in matters of the messing of an election. I'm sure if they listen to it, they'll be surprised. And they pronounced themselves on that issue.
No,
they did.
No.
Let me finish. They did pronounce themselves on that issue. But I'm saying they found an exit. And if you listen to the exit, there is a lot the Supreme Court can do Even the principle that he that comes before equity must come with clean hands. IBC has been approaching the Supreme Court since 2017 with dirty hands. So I'm saying the Supreme Court has powers to ensure those who have messed an election are dealt with. Even if it means they direct that the High Court listens to that case. I'm saying they have powers. They cannot be helpless. That's on you. And on you, it's not true that the Supreme Court will measure the impact of the irregularities and what? Irregularities and what?
Illegality.
And illegalities to determine whether they were sufficient to mess an election. That's not true. That is the Mutunga decision. The Maraga court departed from that decision. And they said, so long as there are irregularities, so long as you have messed the process, you are not true to the Constitution, and regardless of what impact that has, the court was not concerned. It was a major departure.
That's not
it was a major departure, and I will tell you who brought this thing in the Supreme Court of 2017. I was watching.
But I was part of the legal team.
You are there. Then you are not listening to Paul Mwangi. Lawyer Paul Mwangi brought out this case so well, and the Supreme Court made a departure from the Mutunga ruling by not concerning themselves on how much that irregularity and illegality would have affected the votes. It was a major departure.
Let me tell you, Manyora.
On that,
if you went on that tangent, then there'll never be an election that will never be nullified. If you went on that tangent, because that's not what the Supreme Court said, I can assure you.
That's what they said. Ask Paul Mwangi.
My goodness.
I was watching.
All right.
Why do you think there was the calling for the opening of the server? Why do you think that there was the calling of the registrar of the Supreme Court to go and analyze Form 34As, which one didn't have security?
But why do you think you believe?
The thing.
Allow others to talk, Professor.
Just a moment. Just a moment, because you also came in. Why do you think Jubilee insisted and still insisted it was not about the votes? Nothing about their votes was mentioned. Nothing. Absolutely. Nothing about Uhuru's votes ever featured in the Supreme Court.
No, Manyora, you are not understanding this thing. You see,
because the Supreme Court
let me finish this point
on the process. It was a major departure from the Mutunga court. That's why people were saying, hey, this is almost dangerous, like your law is saying.
Thank you.
Because
let's allow chime in. Just a moment. Let allow chime in. Then
you see,
and then
Manyora is just demonstrating that he doesn't have the nitty-gritty of an electoral process. If you are analyzing Form 34As, that's where the constituency results are. So irrespective of whether Jubilee talks of votes or not, the Supreme Court is able to analyze that does Form 34A have for Westlands constituency or for Nyando constituency or for Kisauni constituency have a security feature. If it doesn't have a security feature, then it means that the votes declared therein are null and void. It's the same thing as Jubilee talking about their votes. It's
but then how many votes to be able to determine whether to nullify or not? That's your argument.
Right.
That was the Mutunga argument. How many?
Right. Let's hear from Weda.
Thank you. I think I love being educated.
And there's someone here actually who's also bashing you a bit.
No, it's okay.
This is not bashing.
Just listen, a tweet here is saying, what a condescending attitude against academics by the lauded fella. Listen to the common man in canteens too, who debates,
but I'm also
not impose issues. I refer to you, to Paul Frere and Habermas.
Tell him I'm also an academician, a scholar, somebody whose name is on the course outlines. Anytime is where there's name on the course. So let him not think that I'm just sitting here from the streets as a lawyer. No, I'm a scholar.
This is the teller himself.
Now, I love being educated. We lawyers, we love being educated, and with the law, together with my brother law. But some education are
you can't pay fees for.
In fact, they are not supposed to be allowed. For instance, he's talking about the Supreme Court. Now, let me bring to your attention. Here in Kenya, we run a system called adversarial system. In an adversarial system of justice administration, the court is neutral. The court does not go out to ask. The court does not invite people. It's not involved. You go, you come and state your case. He states his case, and they decide. If nobody comes, even if they see, they will do nothing. We have another system, like the French system, called the adversarial system, the inquisitive system. Now, that one they can ask. They are like the ICC. You come and say, you say, no, go and so come and tell us. So when you say the Supreme Court of Kenya in our constitution can do things outside that constitution, you are encouraging chaos, which we rebuke in Jesus' name. We have the Supreme Court will only deal with one of the presidential candidates, and only if anybody files a petition and asks them to look at it. If nobody does, they did not depart from the Motunga case. You understand that?
Go ahead.
They simply said, we will also examine the process. And since they didn't get satisfactory answers, they said there could be a problem. On a balance of probability, there could be a problem with this election. Remember now when Honorable Raila did not run, the Supreme Court could do nothing. Even if there were irregularities, they'll say, okay, these people have 8 million votes, now you are complaining, and there is no, even if we were to look at it and say there was a problem, could it have come differently? And the answer would be, in the absence of Honorable Raila on the ballot, the outcome would still remain the same. That is the decision. It is not done on the basis that there was tea drunk somewhere in Inquisitorial. Napana, you look at what would have, if the problem was not addressed, it would turn the election.
In fact, tell him
let's come from
the 4 counties of Nyanza never voted. Yet it never disturbed the Supreme Court ruling.
Thank you. Let's come to Professor Aseka here, and we have also Duncan Ojwang, I think, is chiming in, is saying Professor Olo is wrong. Voters register is digital and the manual is complementary or backup.
But that's not what they talked about.
Manyora is right. The qualitative test in 2017 Supreme Court ruling is that an election that did not comply with the laws and constitution can be nullified, even if we do not check the quantitative test. Correct. True, it does not have to affect the results, but that it comply with the constitution. So Manyora is right on qualitative test. This is what
he thinks.
The Dean of School of Law, that is African Nazarene University, is saying. All right, let's hear from Professor Aseka.
True.
Well, these are legal arguments, which I do not have an acumen.
Educate your brother on the same also, so that he doesn't delve into areas he does not understand. Pretend to know, yet he doesn't know. I congratulate you for that integrity of academics.
But let me also educate my brother on the adversarial and the inquisitive systems. At a principal level, I think we should not over-rely on this. We should move away from that. But in terms of practice, in 2013, the Mutunga Court once again went the inquisitive way. It is they who asked for certain materials to be brought. They were not passive, my friend. You people, when things, well, and you are lawyers, Mutunga was inquisitive. Go and check.
Oh, you think asking questions is being inquisitorial?
No, he's saying
here means.
No, I think now we're splitting hairs on semantics. We're splitting hairs on semantics.
If it is not inquisitive, it means if it is not
he thinks.
Listen,
yes,
listen.
Please.
No, listen just a minute.
Yes.
Courts, if they sit in an adversarial system,
yes,
all the material that the court considers are material brought before it by litigants. Okay?
No.
Yes, yes, yes.
No.
Because the process of inquiring, if it goes to the point where the bench is being active by saying, please, bring this, and that has not been raised, the things that the Maraga court asked to be brought by this team before court had been material that were relevant to the points raised by their case. But in the Mutunga case, he's the one who said, go and bring me, I don't know how many, Form 34, go and bring what. That was not being passive.
Please, let's not mislead law students on inquisitorial. Inquisitorial, the process of gathering evidence, the court is involved. The court itself says, go and take evidence from so-and-so. Go and, the way the ICC said, collect this evidence and bring, so-and-so is here. It is not when a court asks a question. When a court says, Form 30 where it is. That's not inquisitorial. That's
bring. All right.
Inquisitorial, the court is actually also like prosecuting.
All right. Whether also Dikush is not relenting on you. You say academics on course outlines are not true academics.
Because he is ignorant.
No, listen. He's saying real academics are on published peer-reviewed journals and have ORC ID numbers. You have none.
Now listen.
He's saying you have none.
Oh, let me answer. Let me answer. For you to be on a course outline, it means you are a reference material.
Correct.
You understand?
Yes.
And if you go within the legal profession, some of the books used to train lawyers are authored by none other than Ambrose Weda, Esquire, Canon, Evangelist. So him, he thinks he is all these things. Please, I can't stand on national TV and
Leave alone, man. Leave Esquire alone. Leave Esquire alone.
Very few of us. People like Golo and Kosa outline. They are set here. But him, he is on Twitter only.
Please, tell him what Esquire means because he doesn't understand. He's a young man.
Esquire.
I've even lost my track of that.
No.
The thing is, we have talked of processes.
Yes.
And the need to make these processes flow so that the results are credible. And the handling of those results also can convince Kenyans that there is fairness in the declaration that is made. We had a problem relating to the server. And even when the courts directed that the servers be opened, those servers were never opened. Now, given that problem, should it rise again? How will it be handled? That is a question. Yet we are saying that now the process is electronic, safeguards are being put in place, but we are not being addressed to the issue of what went wrong with the servers and how is that being corrected. Yes.
Indeed. Okay, we want to bring this to a close, and I wanted just to raise also the issue of the pollster as well. And going with this particular editorial cartoon that was in the Daily Nation yesterday, looking at all the presidential candidates that we do have there, the pollster are projecting Raila is going to win if elections were held today, right? They have missed the bullseye 2 times. Why should we trust them? Looking at this editorial cartoon, if my director may just pick it up. So we have Professor Wajakoya there. Raila Odinga is the one who's receiving this medal from the pollster. We have William Ruto next to him, and we have also David Wahiga Maure there, also looking on. What do we say about the pollster? And if, will it really turn out as they projected? And if not, then why should we trust the pollsters? Professor Adams alone.
Well, I've told you before that polling is just polling. There are instances that polls have hit the bullseye. There are instances that polls have got it wrong. I think the most quoted poll all over the world is the one that put Hillary Clinton ahead of Donald Trump by nearly 11 percentage points a week through the election. When the ballots were finally counted, it got it wrong. So for me, polling is just polling. If the science gets it right, because you see, you use a sample which you then extrapolate. And as Weda said earlier, you are asking people and you are believing that what they have told you is what they'll do. There's a very high chance that what they have told you or not told you is what they'll do. So me, I would say polling is polling, depending on the science of it and the margin of error, as well as whether those who are polled were faithful to what they said, depending also on the sample size, those determine whether a poll gets it right or wrong. But if polling was a science that is foolproof, then we wouldn't go into an election. We would simply say the pollsters have said. The reason why we go to the election is that the pollsters could be wrong, so you need to affirm it physically.
But of course, you alluded to the fact that, you know, also politics is all about perception at the end of the day. And polls, the pollsters as well, they create that illusion and perception that, yeah, this is a person who maybe you should put all your stakes on as well. So how then do you uncouple that perception and the pollsters if we're to really go the pollsters' way? So we should not put all our trust and our...
No.
Yes, yes.
Dibal, why are you not getting the point? A poll is a poll. That's why one poll will differ from another. You use polls to...
With the methodology that you use,
yes,
the outcome will be...
Yeah, and then you use polls to determine how you campaign. It will tell you where you're doing well, where you're doing bad. Where it's not the end result that because the pollster said this is what it should be.
Good.
Yeah.
All right, so the polls are not the final results as well, yeah, until you put your ballot there.
It may be so, but they are an indicator.
Yes.
And even where they have been faulted, like in the case of Hillary Clinton, the most quoted last, our law says, the truth is she beat Trump by a whole 3 million votes.
Yeah.
It's just the electoral system that gave Trump the presidency. But 3 million votes, my friend, although there are millions are many. So the polls are not exact. But even as people vilify pollsters, they also forget that big corporations, big companies depend on these people for market research and pay them huge dollars. And they make a big difference in the world of business, using the same science we are vilifying. But our law is also right. A poll is just a poll. It can't put you at 53, then the elections are called and you get 53. You could get 48 or even 60. But to answer your question, which I think our law perhaps didn't want to answer, that this has happened before and Raila has lost. This argument, this question has been brought over and over, but I think is an issue that has been decided. In 2007, you can't talk of Raila losing the election when we all know what happened. In 2013, we were also there. Raila went to court. We saw what went on in the Mutunga court. In 2017, the Supreme Court nullified the elections. So nobody can use Raila's numbers in the polls and Raila's results where he loses to vilify the polling. The polling is a good indicator. And like our law says, you can, in public, rubbish a poll because it doesn't favor you, but our law is saying, withdraw to the back room and begin looking at it and working on the areas the poll is saying you are weak in the different demographies. In our case, if you look at the way this thing has been progressing, from a time William Ruto was ahead because he was running against William Ruto. Then Raila comes in and the people have more or less written off Raila. You can see he's showing 20-something, moving to 28. And if you look at the way Raila has come now until he has evened with Ruto, then overtaken him, and then he's surging ahead, one can only imagine that if these polls were taken, if the law allowed them to take polls on Monday,
Thank you.
Raila will be ahead by 15, 12 percentage points. And that is the reality on the ground. Weather may not like it, but Raila is taking this thing, as I told you, will say,
That is
very early in the morning.
That is Manyora's call.
Very early in the morning.
He's already made his call. Let me see if that projection will be right. You said what? 51 point?
Raila, the minimum he'll get, 53 will be the minimum.
53?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And call me here on Tuesday, on Wednesday.
Yeah, so that is Manyora's call.
53.
God forbid if you're far away from
In
it.
fact, it appears Manyora is trying to ensure that Raila's supporters sleep. that Baba's
No, no,
and therefore
No,
don't
Raila
worry.
So that they don't come to them.
Raila will get 51.
I think Raila has it in
Raila will get
right
51,
inside.
but I want them to turn
Let
out.
me comment on the polls. The ones who are saying we have
Briefly,
this
we're supposed to be winding up, so we also
what-
should be
what we're
playing
saying
our
is-
headline thoughts.
A poll, number one, has a purpose that it serves. So the polling we see, averagely, they are accurate. To the extent that we have 2 running horses, strong, and 2 others that are not as strong. So there, they are right. But then, you can also use a poll to shape
A narrative.
opinion, to shape a narrative, and then to encourage people. And that would be done by anybody. That's why anytime Honorable Ruto is leading, we say, you see, we told you are winning this thing. Anytime they are not leading, you say, wrong polls. And it is both sides. Both sides. But it is good. Even me, if I was running for president, and I can, Debal is the one doing the polling, I'll tell you, Debal, since these are views, remember me. Let me give you a strange example. There was a time that they were doing...
Briefly, very briefly.
Yes, polling on HIV. Many years when HIV was prevalent. And it would always come that research shows the HIV is so prevalent in Kisumu and all over, until it turned out millions of dollars were flowing there. Then suddenly the polling started, the research started. Now it is more prevalent in Thika. So that can give you that these things are done with a purpose.
It follows
so
the money.
you have to find out the purpose.
All right. So you're making your call as well?
Myself?
Yeah.
No. Myself, I think I would wish Baba well so that his blood is not on us. If he's defeated, I will give him my vote. So if he's defeated, we brought Uhuru and I said, let him not say whether Nini. But if William Ruto wins, hallelujah. If Baba wins, but I wish Baba well, I'll give him my vote.
All right. Let's hear from
You'll give him your vote.
Oh, yeah.
Professor
Kura ni siri
Seka.
bwana.
Professor Seka, also your parting shots as well, your comments, briefly. And
Yes, the issue is really of the validity of these polls. And I would say polls do capture a certain reality at a given moment. But with the passage of time, because the polls are held up to a certain point, then the dynamics, which sometimes are not captured by statistics because they put everything in a deep freeze. I would say, therefore, the situation of polls makes them credible. Let us not use the US case because the structure of their electoral process is such that it's binary. That we have the popular vote and we have the electoral college. Our system here is not binary. And therefore, what polls portray at a given moment in time should be taken seriously, and people do respond and try to strengthen certain areas that have been perceived to be weak in the remaining time, because I said one day in politics is too long for a change to occur. And so polls are a good indicator for us to look at and make certain decisions. And in my view, this situation is 50-50.
50-50.
It can go either way.
It can go either
but
way.
my conviction is whoever carries the day, let us give him the support.
You are near it.
Yeah, because
Incredible.
it is the voice of Kenyans that we ought to respect, and it is the process that we have elected or chosen to use to determine a winner that we are subjecting ourselves to and saying, okay, our loyalty will be to the one who wins. And so of the two, whoever wins gets my loyalty.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Professor Adams Law.
I want to agree that may the best person win. But in law, I'm a toddler. But in political science, I'm mature. And,
A giant.
My political science mind tells me that looking at the terrain and the campaign, and looking at the way Raila Amolo Odinga has tentacles in the whole country, even in Central, where he used to get 3%, you are now talking of upwards of not less than around 27%. And if you go to the Rift, in the South Rift is in the 30s and so on, those are areas of his opponent's stronghold. I see a Raila win around 56%.
56%. All right. 56 and 50-50. Hawan Manyora?
I just want to close this by saying, so that when I say Raila could get 53 and above, people don't think I'm just talking on because they think I support Raila. I'm looking at one thing as a person who understands politics. Look at the power of Raila's finish. If you want to know who is winning this election, just look at the power of the finish. The power of an experienced team is in the finish. The finishing you can witness that in 4 days, what Uhuru has been able to do was not anything he could even have done if he campaigned 2 months earlier. Started with his Kisumu trip. The message to the people that this is your government I'm giving you. Yours is not just to vote but to turn out. That is powerful. Because there are also people who doubt. Then he goes to Bungoma. You may wish to ignore what he did in Bungoma, but it worked even for him in 2017. The machines will be roaring from Sunday, the smoke will be there. Farmers, the last day to be paid today. Then he goes to Kisii. I was not there. Nobody has told me, but I can imagine what he told the Kisii. This son of yours has been a powerful man, almost running my government.
Thank you.
This man has a future. And if you ever want to lead this country, this man, look at him. Then he went to Makueni.
Thank you.
And that finish.
Thank you. Thank you. We're here to see. Thank you, Haman Manyora. Yes. Professor Adam Zolo, I really appreciate. Professor Eric Eseka, Ambassador, thank you for coming through this morning. And yes, tomorrow is a big day. We are yet to see who will be finishing strong. They have their last chance to, of course, give their stamp speeches in... we have it here at Nyayo Stadium, and of course it will be also on Kasarani Stadium, where Right Honorable Raila Odinga will be there, and Dr. William Ruto at Nyayo Stadium. So we'll have the same team tomorrow to do an analysis from 8 a.m. all the way to 11 a.m. in the morning here on KTN News. So make sure also you make a date with us tomorrow to continue with that particular conversation. Uhuru Kenyatta also will be making his final appearance at Sagana, and we'll be following that as well. Don't go away, much more coming up on the other side of the break. We'll be having presidential candidate, that is David Maure, of course, here with us to talk to us on how also he is handling his last time and his last ditch effort to make sure that also he gets this particular set. Don't go away, much more.